my first surveillance case. Let's just say it didn't go as planned. Hi, Tim Santoni, been a private investigator for over 20 years. Work with clients in the legal, insurance, and IP brand protection space. Today I want to talk about my first surveillance case. First, let's set the scene. This goes back more than 20 years. I'd never worked on a surveillance case before, and there's a need to cover an assignment on an urgent basis, and I was going to be the second man of a two-man surveillance team. In this particular case arose from a buy bust that was going to take place in Los Angeles. The client was Chanel, and there was going to be an exchange of product, counterfeit product in exchange for money. And this was a setup. The marshals were involved and there'd be a raid at the time that the product was exhibited and examined. Law enforcement would get involved and our team was going to apprehend the counterfeit product, and we were going to serve the counterfeiters, the defendants, with the legal papers and move on. The goal of this particular surveillance assignment was to follow the counterfeiters from the raid and find out where they went to. Did they go back to another business, to their home, to another friend's house, another contributor, someone else who's involved, and gain intel on what they might be up to so we could get the court to intervene and potentially do another raid. Needless to say, I was pretty excited. This would be my first surveillance case. I was a bit nervous. I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to prove myself to the team. I was hopeful that we would obtain our objective, which is to follow the counterfeiters and figure out where they're operating from, where they're living, so we could do further investigation. The situation was that I had no real formal training in surveillance. I had a car that was not equipped for surveillance. It was a large SUV without tinted windows all the way around. Didn't have the necessary tools or the training, the strategic driving skills. I did not have a good sense of the layout of the land in terms of where we would be going, what freeways we'd be on. This was before Google Maps and any kind of online tools to help navigate. And I wasn't familiar with how to communicate on a two-man team. So there was a lot of things that were working against me. So we had a meet up at a local McDonald's. We set up the plan. I met with the whole team, the law enforcement group, the marshals, and the other investigators on the team, as well as the person that will be doing the surveillance with me, who was very experienced. So in this case, everything went well. The bust went well. The documents were served. The marshals were there. We were able to apprehend the product. Me and the other surveillance operative were able to get a visual on the vehicle and set up to pursue them as they left and initiate mobile surveillance. This is where things got interesting. The counterfeiters got on the freeway and were driving very fast. I was not able to keep up and I lost visual contact. When I was able to connect with the other investigator who was able to maintain visual contact, I learned that these particular subjects got off the freeway and were doing some evasive maneuvers on side streets to obviously avoid a tail. I don't think that they knew that we were onto them, but they had suspicion to believe that they would be followed. They did do some very evasive maneuvers, and I was eventually able to catch up, help my fellow surveillance operative with the assignment. We eventually followed them down into downtown LA, and they stopped at a large multi-unit apartment complex, parked outside and went in, and we maintained surveillance there. A couple things that I learned. One is that I didn't have the skills or experience to do what's required in order to stay on this particular subject. Good thing I had a second person to help me out, and also the patience and fortitude required when you're on site for multiple hours waiting for someone to become active once you land them at a location requires a good deal of patience, which was quite a challenge. So what did I learn? I learned quite a bit. In this particular situation, a lot more preparation would have been useful to get a lay of the land, the streets, the freeways, and how the person might be exiting and leaving the buy bust en route back to wherever they might be going. And at the end of the day, we were able to accomplish our objective, which is land the subject back where they needed to go. I wanted to share a little bit about my first surveillance assignment and how it didn't go quite as planned. Thanks so much for watching. Consider subscribing and liking this video. Thanks.